Welcome to Teaching Orchestra. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the right hand, or the bowing technique needed for Sandstorm by Eric Branchfield. In my last video, I talked at length about the importance of send the bow and gripping the string with the bow hair for articulation. And after that, the next technique that you should probably take a look at is the string crossing. And there are several places which, when performed in first position, requires a quick string crossing. Let's take a look at measure 48 as an example. There's a B to an A to a G to a C. So if you do this in first position, you got to cross from the A to the G to the C. That's 2 string crossings pretty quick. And there's ways around it, like playing in third position, other spots like 38. What you can do here is you can play an open A, and that gives you a little bit more buffer before the string crossing here. Yes, there are ways around it, but why pass up an opportunity to teach technique, right? Probably to this point, your students have been leading with the elbow to cross strings, but this technique is probably not going to be best for eighth notes at 144 beats per minute. So let's look at a better way to do it. And in the teaching companion, I start with the open strings nice and slowly. Now, because it's slow, your students are probably going to lead with their elbows to cross strings, and you need to have them isolate. Just have them set their bow on the A string with a neutral wrist, then have them raise their wrists, which will put the bow on the D string. Now go back to neutral for the A string, then raise the wrist for the D string, back and forth, nice and slowly. For this step, I like to use peer-to-peer coaching to provide some accountability to make sure everybody's using the technique. We want to make sure everybody in the class is leading with the wrist and not with the elbow. And if you want more information about how to use peer-to-peer coaching, check out Season 5, Episode 6. And if you want to see my demonstration video on how I teach string crossing with the wrist, check out Season 1, Episode 9. But that's up to you. Some people like to read the instruction manuals. Some people like to throw it away and figure it out on their own. It's all good. Okay, so you teeter-totter from string to string. Now let's start opening and closing from the elbow to make sound nice and slow. Get really comfortable with that and try to speed up. See how it looks like little circles here? As you speed up, those circles get smaller. Once the technique starts to get squirrely, stop. That's enough for today. We'll try again tomorrow. Be patient. Your students aren't going to master every technique in one day. It'll probably take a couple of weeks. But once they can do it with open strings at tempo, slow it back down to quarter notes, and then add the left hand. So this is just a basic pattern. G, open A, B, A, G, A. And then once they master that, you can speed it up into eighth notes. I would definitely use open A and not fingered A for this because it really provides that accountability for your students to lead with the wrist and learn their string crossings. Now for this to work and for it all to be homogeneous for your bass players, they're going to need to be on the E and the A strings. So that's 2 octaves below your cellos. It's not ideal, but at least they're participating, right? If you just worked with the first violins or cellos or whatever section that has it all by themselves, the bass players are just going to be sitting there. And well, if you're lucky, they're just going to be sitting there because quite actually, they're probably just going to be shooting spitballs at your viola sections. So anyway, let's look at some other parts of the bow technique because we've got some slurs too. So let's look at the teaching exercise number 5 in the teaching companion. So here we have to slur from A to G. And that complicates things because before we were making little circles with the right hand, and now with the slur, we're going to be making more of like an oval shaped. So it messes up your timing a little bit, and it messes up the shape of your bowing as compared to the détaché bowings. Now, one of the strategies that you can use is to reduce bow speed on the slur, and that's something that could be quite good. But let's go back to the string crossing exercises. And we can just go back to the open strings and start adding slurs. And once they get good at that, then we can go here and we can add a slur here, we can add a slur here, or we can add a slur and then détaché and then slur détaché. As their technique improves, you can complicate the technique. I use double down bows where it's appropriate, But if you have them bow it as it comes, what technique are you going to use to distinguish the staccato quarters from the tenuto quarters? Are you going to brush them? Are you going to use a colle stroke? Or are you just going to stop the bow on the string? I probably wouldn't recommend that last one, especially if you're going to take this to a contest or evaluation. But you need to do something to make that distinct, or otherwise it kind of all sounds the same. All right, let's take a look at measure 27 and the inner voices here. We got some bowing challenges. Yes, it's 144 beats per minute, but still, they're going to be using quite a bit of bow for this 5-beat down bow. So let's look at this next measure here. If we bow down, up, down, up, down again. So we've got a big down bow, short notes, and then another big down bow. Are we gonna have enough bow for that? We're gonna have to use a really quick bow on beat 3 to get back to the frog. And with that string crossing, yikes, that's gonna be tough for a lot of second-year players. So we can slow the bows down for the held ease. That's probably a good strategy. We could add slurs to beats 2 and 4. And now we have right here on beats 2 and 4. Now we have 2 up bows here and a down bow. That's actually what I do because it gets us closer to the frog here. And that works a little bit better. That could work, but it does change the articulation. And I think it changes it for the better because it matches 28 and 32. But if you do it that way, make sure that they're pressing really firmly with the fingers because on a slur, the left hand provides the articulation. But that's something else that you're going to need to work out. And also the same thing here at 45 and 46, right? It's the same bowing. So whatever you do over here, I would probably do the same thing over here. Those two measures are a lot harder than they look. And usually what happens with those eighth notes is they kind of get lost, which is unfortunate because in those places, I think the counter melody is more interesting than the melody. For me, and adding the slurs is what I do, but just find something that works for you and your orchestra. In my next video, I'm going to take a look at the left hand and go over some teaching strategies from how to make those eighth notes nice and clear. So I hope to see you in the next video.